this installment of our Bates Botanical Bootcamp series. Today we'll be going over our little spring garden checkup is what we're going to be calling it. And we even kind of this morning made us a little spring checklist to kind of go by. I think I'll hold up here for the camera for Tyler to see.
Lower, over. There you go.
There we got it. Oh, wrong way. So these are just a few ideas. We kind of got down a couple of the big ideas and then a few other little things to consider, but mostly just some things to keep in mind as we go through our process here. And so first thing we kind of start with, as we often do here at Bates, is starting with the soil. Essentially, this time of year, there's not a whole lot of action going on unless you're planting. So, just kind of making sure you're getting your soil amended and getting ready for your gardens, making sure it's good and well drained and there's plenty of nutrient in the soil. Building your beds for your veggie gardens and everything like that. This is time too, also, if you're going to lay down some mulch, better sooner than later. It's going to give you a quicker kind of like suppression effect, give you a bigger head start on any weeds that will be growing up. Good time to go ahead and get those mulch down. And we'll move on to the next thing. This is the time of year where you really have to start paying attention and keeping an eye on any pests that may be emerging, any funguses. You'll be wanting to do a lot of your treatments this time of year. For Dorminal in particular is a big thing. We're kind of getting near the end of when you'll be able to use Dorminal, as that's kind of, as the name implies, more used sooner when things are just kind of coming out of dormancy. But definitely keep an eye on any pests emerging. Any systemic treatments is a good time to start doing that as plants start to bud out and photosynthesize. They'll be drinking up a lot more water, so any of those systemic treatments will be taken up a lot better right now and get you kind of a head start on any problems you may have. Another thing to keep in mind will be, especially with your veggie gardens and everything else, where your fruits and your berries, you want to have any of your beds and your different kind of equipment and structures set up already, trellises, any wiring you're going to be doing, those things. You may need some frost covers this time of year. We know how Middle Tennessee weather goes. We might get some late frost, even though we get a lot of warm weather right up front. So keeping some frost cloth handy for newer plantings or anything with some fresh new growth on there, or even marginal plants for winter hardiness, anything that's kind of marginal, like things like laura petalums or things like that have sometimes a little bit of trouble with sudden frost. So something to keep in mind would be something to help protect those in case that happens. If you're going to be doing some planting this season, again, it's one thing, just kind of like mulch, it'd be better to kind of get it done sooner than later. The idea behind that is you really just want to get things in the ground and start getting established before summer gets here, when they start really going through their true test with the heat we have here. So the sooner you can get them in the ground and let those roots start growing out, the better chance you're going to give them. That mainly goes for trees and shrubs, things that aren't going to be cold hardy, are going to be cold hardy. Still keep in mind, you got to keep in mind that last average frost date for your warm season veggies and annuals, which typically is around mid-April, around April 15th or so. Sometimes we can get a late frost in here.
I just double-checked with the UT extension. It's April 21st is what they pin it as.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so always important to keep up with that kind of thing, and always as we go year to year, even like we said, the average last date's around mid-April, but as he's told us, that's going to be a little bit later this year expectedly. So just always keep an eye on what the weather's going to do, especially when you're planting new things. This is also a good time of year for any cutting back and pruning you may want to do, particularly later blooming shrubs and trees like hydrangeas, vitex, crepe myrtle. This is a good time to do your initial cutbacks and kind of set the pace for the growth you want to have this year. This way you can cut back some of that woody stuff, even going back into winter, late winter, you can start doing those cutbacks. And that way you're not going to get rid of any blooms that are going to come much later in the year. For things that are going to be more spring blooming, things like azaleas, thinking little spireas even, things like that are going to be much earlier spring bloomers, camellias. You definitely want to leave those alone. Forsythia is another thing until after your blooming cycle is done, so that way you can, again, kind of set the pace for the growth for the following seasons, but also just make sure the bloom season is done so you get to enjoy those blooms. I'll just say it's important to keep in mind that for certain plants that you will have to kind of leave some of that old wood to enjoy the blooms the following year, like Forsythia, but that's, I suppose, another topic. If you want to get you to go and get a cutback on some evergreens, this is also a good time to do that. Just one thing is always, as I pointed out earlier, just to be mindful of upcoming frost, because even cutting back and spur on some new growth. And you just want to make sure that whatever comes out isn't just going to get zapped off right away by any coming frost. So if you do some cutbacks, it could spur some new growth, and make sure that timing works out to where you'll either avoid the frost or just remember to keep your frost cloth handy and everything just to give it a little bit of protection. And just be mindful, too, that even older established plants, just with our weather, they can still be affected by frost. I mean, we had so many questions last year with people coming in wondering why their crepe myrtles look so dead on the top. And it's just, a situation where we had some fast, warm weather in the spring, and then, again, a late frost came in and just kind of zapped a lot of that growth. So it's something to be mindful of that. That's a possibility around here. Let's see. Go through here and let's come to fertilizing. So fertilizing, this is pretty much the time of year where you usually begin your fertilizing process, your slow release fertilizers. We actually have a couple of webinars we've already done. We have one on demystifying fertilizing labels that Austin did for us, that he can definitely help you with picking out certain fertilizers and knowing what to read on the labels. And he's also done another one recently that we're getting up soon that's a little bit more to do with spring fertilizing, and particularly dealing with drip lines and things like that. So we'll have that up shortly soon, and get a little more information on fertilizing. Also the time of the year you start thinking about what seeds you want to start sowing and get the timing right on those. Typically things that come with a package will also give you a recommended time to plant them, how many days out from emergence they'll be. So you have to plan all that timing around the last frost dates. Also, just this time of year, it's a great time, since enjoyable weather, to get out and start getting ready for any other projects you may have planned out for the year. Start working on your new beds or anything like that. Start making a list of any of the warm season veggies and annuals you want to have out. As we get close to that date, you get ready to put those in the ground. We definitely get a lot of veggies in early this time of year, and even sometimes annuals, but it's important to remember that for those warm season annuals and veggies, it's still important to kind of hold off until we get past those frosts. Always to evaluate any of your irrigation needs, if you're going to leave any drip lines or just the pathways you're going to have to get water to your new plants. They're going to really need it, especially as we get into summer. So it's good to have all that planned out and ready to go. Any of your garden tools you'll need. That's all things. This is the time of year where everybody just gets excited, and this way, before we're still pretty early spring. So this is a good time just to get prepared for what's coming next. And particularly everybody, as we've mentioned before with warm season veggies, this is the time of year where everybody starts getting ready for tomatoes and everything else. And I think we're going to jump over to Tyler. He has a little bit he wanted to talk about with, getting your gardens ready for berries. He does a lot of berries and things like that too.
I do. And, Tennessee berry season is soon to fall upon us. Strawberries first off, and also blackberries, as well as a crop of blueberries in the summer. And then if you do your plant selection right, you could also extend that towards the fall with raspberries and other late cropping blackberries, as well as we have blackberries that produce two crops on different canes, one in the beginning of the year and then one later in the year. That's like the Primark varieties. We also have the heritage raspberries as well, which are also two croppers. So those are definitely something to look out for. We're showing you most of our other webinars because when we say spring gardening checkup, we're punching the list here of the things that you should be able to wrangle up so your garden experience as we head into the rest of the spring will be an enjoyable one. So we've amassed all this knowledge, and we're kind of posting all these links here so you can take these dives in while it's still just a little bit too early to plant warm crops and see where you need to be. Now, I have the UT extension calendar pulled up here, which Nora lovingly put a link to in the chat. So for today, literally today, the 26th, it says fertilize blueberry bushes at bloom. Repeat in 6 weeks and write down the dates fertilized. So I just did that earlier this week, actually, with my blueberries. I used soil acidifier, which is an Espoma product. Anything that's used to amend your acidity. Usually it has these little sulfur pellets in it, along with a little bit of plant food. Sprinkle it around the drip line, of the plant, which is just outside of where the leaves drip when it rains, and then watered it in. And the rain yesterday definitely watered it in. So let's see what's coming up on the calendar. On the 30th, peas and potatoes should all be seeded by late March in West Tennessee. So I guess we're kind of in that West Tennessee zone. You know, the Highland Rim is a little bit to the east of us there. Remove mulch on strawberries and place between the rows on the 31st. So, you know, just watch for your frost protection on your strawberries. And then we slide on into April here, which definitely, you know, that Saturday, the first Saturday in April, you could direct seed early beans and sweet corn. So as we follow this calendar, that's definitely going to be your best bet, most reliable planting guide, as this is all backed up by horticulturalists and scientists at our extension office there at Arlington Agricultural Center. And also to note, well, first of all, please, if you have any questions, go ahead and lay it on us. A copy of the calendar, Honora posted a link. She can probably repost that link there in the chat. And our checklist is just a simple punch list, and I posted the link to that at the very top. Yeah, but if you have any questions, go ahead and send them our way. Justin, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say, you know, while we're waiting for questions to file in, you know, just kind of an obvious thing to say, but, you know, this is a time of year when really a lot of different things are really in full bloom. So it's a great time to really just enjoy taking all that in, even noticing what grows native here, what's, you know, a lot of things may even be invasive, but, you know, things like red buds and such, it's good to see them blooming in the wild, and you get to kind of see that environment naturally versus, you know, your own gardens. It's good to keep in mind, too, certain things we'll be getting into the store, typically things like roses to get you a lot of cool blooms. We'll typically get those close to the early April, so we haven't gotten them in yet, but that's something to keep an eye out for. You know, what other kind of new plants we usually get in later, more varieties of crepe myrtles as we get closer to summer. So that's a big thing to me. You know, I really love, you know, going out in spring and enjoying seeing what freshly blooms and see all the new growth on everything. Even looking at maple blooms, I've really enjoyed that this year.
Yes, definitely. Here at the nursery, we have a very wide variety of things, not only that are blooming, but they're leafing out. You get to see that really cool early spring leaf color. Mm-hmm. And I think on our checklist also there's making a list of your veggie starts that you want to accumulate.
Absolutely.
And I'll just have to say that just the other day we got in heirloom tomato varieties. That's our first shipment of heirlooms of the season. We also have a ton of peppers.
Yeah, those are definitely starting to pile in. We're getting quite a bit of veggie starts now.
Yes,
and
we
again,
have some strawberries too.
It's important to remember to hold onto those and, you know, keep them watered and warm until we get past those frost dates and you can get them in the ground or in your beds. But yeah, there's a good opportunity right now to even come in if you want to find some more stuff that you want to kind of beat the rush a little bit. Once veggie season really starts, you can, you know, come in and check out and see what we have here. We just get a good variety of different herbs and veggies in.
Yeah, and a lot of our perennials are still, they just look like little green lumps. So, you know, we don't have a lot of the perennial blooms yet. Mm-hmm. Those will be coming in the next month or two as we warm up. Just some things that I've been doing around my garden. I've actually made two beds into one. I removed a border along a pathway I had between the two. And I'm going to start adding some soil to this bed. I'm going to top it off. And I've also done a lot of weeding. And unfortunately, that's kind of one thing you have to do heavy in the spring, is weeding. Oh, we got a question here. Does Bates carry white string beans? Do you know, Justin? Do we do?
Not sure off the top of my head. We do typically get a whole lot of different beans, pole beans, bush beans.
Yes.
Not particularly sure about white streaming, but we, you know, like I said, we try to get a lot of different things in here. I know Chinese long bean, edamame, soybeans.
Yes, and feel free if you want to directly ask our buyers and people who source plants here at the nursery, send an email to info@batesnursery.com. They will see your reply during business hours and directly get back to you, as well as giving us a call here at the nursery, which is 615-876 1014. Somebody, and if the phones are busy, I would definitely try email, and we'll get that answered as quickly as possible. Now, topping off the beds is definitely big on my agenda. I still have a lot of weeds that need to come up in the garden. I use a stirrup hoe if we're talking about tools, or a loop hoe or a Dutch hoe, and that does pretty good job at getting all of those surface level young weeds out, and it also works for rock gardens too. You can get underneath those rocks to loosen that up. In the storm yesterday, one of my trellises blew over, so I guess I need to stake my trellises better to survive 70-mile-an-hour straight line winds. So that's another thing that I'll be doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a good time in general to, even while stuff isn't in season yet, to get a lot of that work done so you don't feel kind of rushed. People like to build big trellises for like muscadines and things like that. That could take a bit of time, so it's a good time just to go ahead and get that done with, so later, once summer gets here, all you got to really worry about is getting them in the ground or taking care of them.
Yeah. And you might also consider, doing your plant research and homework this time of year. We have tons of tags, and actually Justin did a webinar on plant tags, right?
That's right, yeah.
Demystifying plant tags. So Justin did a great job at breaking down size requirements, sunlight, things that are important, and also even like the more particular granular things that you might miss when you look at a plant's tag. And another thing that we like to do this time of year is cruise the streets in all parts of Nashville. I mean, there's some beautiful landscaping around the metro area and out towards Williamson County and the surrounding areas. I just was around. I was in West Nashville just the other day. Saw a lot of really cool arborvitae hedges that had mixed plantings of cypress and juniper, and I think that there's a lot of lovely colors that can be explored there.
Mm-hmm. Deciduous magnolias, those have really been going crazy
everywhere.
Right now.
Everywhere.
I've seen some real big ones that look amazing.
Yes, and we carry those as well. The tulip magnolias, we have Jane and Betty. I believe those are Jane is the one that's really striking with the deeper magenta blooms. We also just got in some red bud trees that are younger. They're smaller, but they are fully flush. They just look like pink torches.
Mm-hmm. I believe that was the bubble gum, which had the more bigger voluptuous blooms.
Yes.
Red buds are pretty cool. There's a lot of different bloom colors, leaf colors, even with gradients along the leaf color. Those are a really cool plant. And being that they're native here, they also live so well, so that's real fun tree to kind of explore what different things they can do with them.
Yes, exactly. What else are we getting in today? We got in like 20 racks of stuff.
Yeah, we got 2 really big trucks and another kind of smaller one, but I think we got a couple new rhododendron varieties in, so that's a little unique. Those will be blooming soon here.
Mm-hmm.
What else? A lot of just kind of what we call backbone stuff, things that we commonly stock.
Yes, a lot of hydrangeas.
Mm-hmm. Lots of hydrangeas.
Yep. So we're getting towards our peak. We're still climbing the mountain though, out here at the nursery.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not really seeing any other questions piling in, so we can probably just wrap this one up. We know it's a little bit shorter, it's a little bit more concise, but we wanted to provide you with this checklist and a couple of resources, and also link you to some of our other webinars if you haven't seen them. If you have, then I'm sure that you're on the right path and you're trucking along with us in getting our gardens ready for this year. So, Justin, you want to take it away?
Yeah, thanks for tuning in with us for the spring checkup Bates Botanical Bootcamp webinar. Enjoy the spring weather. Enjoy all the craziness. It's definitely crazy here, but it's just an exciting time. Everything's growing, blooming out. You can't help but get excited.
Patricia here is asking, could you tell how to keep the bulbs after the season?
Keep the bulbs after the season, or you mean?
I'm guessing it's probably like after the blooms are spent.
Like on particular like perennial bulbs, I mean, you're basically going to leave them in the ground and kind of let them do their thing. If you're talking more about just kind of shrubs or everything that's early blooming, like I said, for earlier blooming things, you can go ahead and kind of cut those back after the bloom cycle's done. Certain plants you're going to want to leave a lot of that old wood though, like forsythia and macrophylla hydrangeas, the ones that bloom usually blues and purples.
She said after the blooms and digging them up, I have them out in pots.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good strategy. Just keeping them out of the harsh elements. Making sure that they're not in any super cold weather if any frost comes. Yeah.
Yes. So Honora just posted a link actually to how to overwinter your bulbs and tubers, which is great. Let's see. Carone is asking, do you cut the stems off the bulbs right away? Personally, I do not. With my irises, I let them finish flowering, and then I even whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to put that up there. I even let the blooms kind of die back, and then I'll cut the blooms down, but I'll still leave the leaves up. And that just allows the plant to save that energy and put it into the next, put it into the bulbs that it's creating.
Yeah, I mean, as a general rule for anything with deadheaded and old blooms, I typically wait for that bloom cycle to finish completely, for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we will also be doing a summer gardening checkup as well as a fall garden checkup. So, this is kind of the succession webinar to winter garden prep, which I led back in January. So we're hoping to keep this successional so we can just kind of check in and see where we're at. Mm-hmm. So we will address those things too as we get there, as we move along this year. Okay, now take it away, Justin.
All righty. Well, again, thanks for tuning in. Just a reminder, kind of quick overview. Soil amendment, building your beds, pre-treating for pests and fungicides. Go ahead and get your planting for trees and shrubs. Go ahead and get that done sooner than later. Same with mulching. Go ahead and do your cutbacks on your later blooming plants. Allow those spring bloomers to kind of get through their cycle before you do. And just get ready for the year. Get ready to start watering things once summer gets here, really.